In 2025, I don't know that people are going to listen to this in perpetuity, but in 2025, the United States spent $5.6 trillion on healthcare, which is up 7.1% from the year before. And it's not because costs went up. It's because there's more complexity in healthcare and there's more sick people. Got it? And if you look at this and you look at the black and white, look at the black and white data points on like insurance actuaries or data from just insurance companies, anybody that does insurance, health insurance inside the United States, put it all together. And what you see is that we as chiropractors, anybody that comes to see us, they don't spend as much on healthcare. They don't have as much surgeries, decreasing everything about it. And if you actually look at the data, let's just look at the data because the study says this, that people that are under chiropractic care for wellness, maintenance, lifestyle, they lay on a table if they hurt, they lay on a table if they don't hurt, because this is what I do week in, week out. This is how I take care of my health by having a clear nerve supply. People that do that for 3 years, they literally spend 86% less on pharmaceuticals. They have 60% less hospitalizations, 62% less surgeries. Get this. And on average, spend 69% less per year on any healthcare spending of any kind, eye, dental, medical, surgical, medical, 69%. So why did I bring up 5.6 trillion? I bring up 5.6 trillion because what is 69% of 5.6 trillion? It is $3,864 billion. Did you hear what I'm saying? Like, so everybody that's listening right now, you're watching this video whenever time you're watching it. And if I say 3 trillion, 386 billion, or whatever, like your brain, you just bought gas for your car or truck.
So kick them rocks. If you don't like how I talk, I'ma keep on talking and walk my walk. Let the haters talk, let the rumors fly. I ain't got time to wonder why. The good Lord knows the man I am, and I'll die standing tall with a mic in my hand. You can kick rocks if you don't like how I talk. I'ma keep on talking and walk my walk.
Hey everybody, Dr. Baker here. Welcome to Rip It. And the purpose of this show is really, really simple. We want to keep chiropractors fired up about what they do, and we want to bring other chiropractors a better understanding or certainty in the philosophy so we can take over healthcare, period. With me, a really good friend of mine and someone that inspires me every time I see him on stage, every time I talk to him, Dr. David Earp. Welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, man. Bro, right back at you. Hey, I'm just glad to be here. Like 28 years into practice and as excited to go to practice today and work with people as I ever have been. And, you know, it's so cliche to say it. I know there's lots of chiropractors going to be watching this and maybe some students. There's never been a better time to be a chiropractor. Like the problem with it is we're all excited about what Maha is doing and the changes that we're seeing, the inversion of the food pyramid and the decreasing of the vaccine schedule and all these cool stuff. It's awesome. The only problem with that is Maha's not going to save us. It's going to be us in the trenches. And so staying fired up, leading people, that's how we change things, always from ground up.
Well, I like the positive way things are going too, but with all due respect to RFK and anyone else that's flipping food pyramids, they're not talking about innate intelligence. They're not grounded in the fact that the body can heal itself without interference. And that message, that principle, that which we stated on is the reason why chiropractors should be at the forefront of healthcare.
I'll say this. I agree. I was in a documentary with RFK, super nice guy. I don't probably agree with a lot. I won't say a lot. Some things he says, and I wouldn't be able to even list that, but I can tell you he's doing some amazing stuff and wheels turn slow. So even though I get really frustrated because I see some things that have not changed or whatever else, what I will say is, hey, things are changing. And the only issue though is what we don't need is more of the same thing, like a more affordable healthcare system that we currently have, because it's not the affordability, although that is a major broken point that we'll even talk about today. But what it is actually the fundamental starting point for a healthcare system that doesn't find cause and then just throws, symptom relief and duct tape over the engine light. That is the fundamental issue with our healthcare system. And more of the same is not the solution. Completely getting rid of what we have and starting new is really, again, maybe that's not what's going to happen, but It's really one, in my opinion, one of the only ways to actually fix this thing is to start from ground zero again.
Well, bro, to that point, the system's been so corrupted, so ass backwards for so long. All the RFK did, to focus on this part for just a second, is say, hey, let's do less vaccinations. He didn't say you can't get your kid vaccinated, and people are losing their shit. So, like, imagine if he's like, hey, by the way, chiropractor, you go to a chiropractor for 6 months before you, like, he can't just flip it upside down like the food pyramid all at once, because they already want to lynch the guy just for reducing the number of vaccines.
Well, and he loves chiropractors and he loves chiropractic, and the guy gets adjusted regularly. Like, I don't know if everybody knows that. And he is totally in favor of our philosophy, above, down, inside out. Like, I believe that he truly, in fact, the name of the documentary we were in, it was called A Better Way. And it's not about just alternative healthcare, which you see a lot of that stuff. And it's got acupuncture and it's got some kind of red light therapy or whatever else, all cool stuff. But A Better Way is purely a chiropractic above, down, inside out philosophical based documentary, which he's like 100% in on. And let me just, I think it's time to get into it. In 2025, I don't know that people are going to listen to this in perpetuity, but in 2025, the United States spent $5.6 trillion on healthcare, which is up 7.1% from the year before. And it's not because costs went up. It's because there's more complexity in healthcare and there's more sick people. Got it? And if you look at this and you look at the black and white data points on like insurance actuaries or data from just insurance companies, anybody that does insurance, health insurance inside the United States, put it all together. And what you see that we as chiropractors, anybody that comes to see us, they don't spend as much on healthcare. They don't have as much surgeries, decreasing everything about it. And if you actually look at the data, let's just look at the data, because the study says this: the people that are under chiropractic care for wellness, maintenance, lifestyle, they lay on a table if they hurt, they lay on a table if they don't hurt, because this is what I do week in, week out. This is how I take care of my health by having a clear nerve supply. People that do that for 3 years, they literally spend 86% less on pharmaceuticals. They have 60% less hospitalizations, 62% less surgeries. Get this. And on average, spend 69% less per year on any healthcare spending of any kind: eye, dental, medical, surgical, 69%. So why did I bring up 5.6 trillion? I bring up 5.6 trillion because what is 69% of 5.6 trillion? It is $3,864 billion. Did you hear what I'm saying? Like, so everybody that's listening right now, you're watching this video whenever time you're watching it. And if I say 3 trillion, 386 billion, or whatever, like, your brain, you just bought gas for your car or truck. Like, you don't play in that, and neither do we. So like, when I say numbers like that, you don't understand what I'm saying. And I don't necessarily fully understand it either. So I thought, let me just figure this out. What if I did it into some kind of quantification that I understand? So how about in seconds? 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. What's 1,000 seconds? 1,000 seconds is about 12 minutes. Okay. What's 1,000,000 seconds? 11 and a half, almost 12 days is 1,000,000 seconds. What would 1,000 do? Well, once you jump from 1,000,000 seconds to 1,000,000,000 seconds, your brain goes, I don't know, like a month? I don't know. No. 1,000,000,000 seconds is 32 years, roughly. 32 years. Now, I said trillions. So let's just throw trillions out there. Now that I've gotten into billions, your brain should be going, I don't know, I can't put a framework around it. So now, but look at it. If I had a trillion seconds is roughly 32,000 years. Now put that back into dollars. If I gave you, Dr. Steven, $5.6 trillion and you bought massive yachts every day, you bought the most expensive, extravagant sports cars in the world, diamond-plated watches, you bought mansions every day of your life, and you lived into 100, no matter what age you are now, you could not spend it all. Literally, there's no way you could possibly get even close. In fact, if all of your family did the same thing, you couldn't. If all your town basically did, I don't think you'd get to. Like, and so when you start looking at this, what does $3,864 billion really mean? Because it's not really dollars. What it means is that's wasted potential for the economy of the United States. But, Stalin said that if 1,000,000 people die or are killed, it's a statistic. But if one person dies, it's a tragedy. What's the difference? Because statistics and numbers have no stories to them. But one person, you know their story. You know what they lived for. You know what they believed in. You know what they were hoping for. You know what they had goals in their life for. You know what they loved. You know the people that were around them. And then when the world loses them, you see what's lost because you see what that one person was. If you throw 1 million lives out there, like 999,936 people die annually from the practice of medicine. And I think there's a reason to have medical doctors. I'm not being weird. But the number one cause of death in the United States and the world is the practice of medicine. And when you throw 1 million people out like that died from the practice of medicine that would still be here today if they didn't go see a medical doctor, you go, that's tragedy, right? And I know you've done this. That's 6 jumbo jets a day dropping out of the sky and everybody dying, right? Like if 6 jumbo jets dropped out of the sky every day and everybody died, how many days would it take for people to actually stop flights? Like a day?
1
Days? A week? No, people would stop it right then. And here's the other thing. You wouldn't let one person in your family buy a plane ticket to go anywhere until they got it figured out. True or false? You wouldn't buy a ticket, right? And here's the thing. Next week, someone's going to say to you, and this is for people listening, your family's going to call you, oh yeah, no, I've got a doctor's appointment, my annual. It's, it's this week. And you may not say anything, but why? Would you literally let your family walk through live poisonous snakes? Oh, here, kids, I got a 4-year-old. Just walk right through there. It's just statistics. And I'm here. And again, I'm not against medicine for the most part, but the only thing that medicine has any basis in reality to do is to take care of people who are in critical care. Like when I cut my fingers off, or, when I had my heart issue, if I was about to die, maybe help me with my critical care, but then somebody figure out why I'm here. Don't just cover it up. Make sense?
Really makes sense. So I'm going to take that a couple different directions. First of all, what kind of came to me because thank you for quantifying somehow kind of the amount of money we spent on healthcare. But can you imagine if a fraction of that was just spent on people being able to go to chiropractors and actually apply the principles that we teach? Like, we would stop spending all that money.
It would take a fraction of what we would save to literally pay for every man, woman, and child in the United States to get adjusted regularly. And we would still have massive amount. Everybody could get refund checks.
Yeah. And the other thing about it, it's easy for me to be frustrated with the medical model with medical doctors. Have you ever felt bad for medical doctors? I feel bad.
100%.
They go to school so long. There's so much debt. And can you imagine, like, I'm on the table and I adjust somebody, and the majority of the time, whatever's going on gets better. Can you imagine every single time that your patient comes in, they're just worse, or they got one more symptom, and you just continue to.
Well, so I actually ran a chiropractic clinic when we first started, before I learned the principle of chiropractic and all of these things. And I had a symptom-based practice. And so people came in and they hurt and they left when they felt better, and they would come back if they hurt again, that kind of stuff. So I spent my days as a doctor chasing symptoms, which is why I have a huge soft spot for medical doctors, because that's their whole life. That is their MO. In fact, a medical doctor is not doing their job if you don't feel better, because the basis of medicine is therapeutic, and therapeutics are making a patient feel better with their symptoms. And chiropractic is even better, in my opinion, for almost everything for therapeutics, but not because we're actually treating people therapeutically. Chiropractic is not a therapeutic. It is a above down, inside out health philosophy that says remove the interference and let the body do the healing. The chiropractor doesn't do the healing. The patient's inborn innate wisdom does the healing. So just keep removing the interference.
You wrote a book. I want to jump into that, because while we're talking about the medical system, what's the name of the book? Walk me through the process of writing that, because there's a lot of people, including myself, that have been like, man, I want to write a book, but I haven't actually finished it. And so when you finish a book, it puts you in the spot where really not that many people have done it. So inspiration behind it, process it took. What's the book all about?
So the book is called Breaking Free from Chemical Religion. Actually, I have it right here. Breaking Free from Chemical Religion and Finding Your Way Back to Health. This is the name of the book. And if you look at it, it's almost like a Catholic priest kind of thing. And he's getting pills out of basically this holy grail. The priest in the story basically is the medical doctor. And he just gives out, like, people put more faith in a chemical religion than they do the power that literally made 2 cells into animated you. And it is a false religion. In fact, it's the fastest growing, most common religion on the face of the planet. It's not a science, it's a religion, and it's a chemical religion. And the reason the book's called Breaking Free from Chemical Religion is because from the moment you're born on this planet, you have to have a medical intervention. Like pregnancy and labor and delivery is not, even the word labor and delivery is a medical term. Just delivering a baby, like having a baby, so from the start of your life, you are literally a medical patient because of the way the system's set up, and you are not allowed to die unless a medical doctor has said that you're dead. Like they have to actually pronounce you dead. And I get it. They don't want to put people in a coffin or something or in an ice chest that's not actually dead. I get why we do that. But look a little deeper. Every part of our entire life is indoctrinated into this belief system. So we wrote a book that chapter by chapter basically challenges some thought process that maybe you didn't even think about as just the general lay public, that is ingrained in you, that is something that you should question. Like so many times we have people come in and are like, oh yeah, no, you give Tylenol for a fever. No, actually, if you actually allow kids to have a fever, they're better off. Well, what it says that? Well, there's studies that actually prove that if you give a kid Tylenol every time they have a fever, that they're 200% more likely to have cancer in their lifetime because you never let them develop an immune system, which is the only thing that can actually fight cancer anyway. So we wrote this book over the course of 2 years. And so for everybody that's thinking about writing a book and you're in the middle of it, do it. If God's put it on your heart that you have a burning something in you that has to get out, then you need to write a book. When you write a book, just know it's a process. It's like having a baby. And so you will get started and you back off, get started. What we had to do is we did this for over 15 years. This was in us and supposed to come out of us until we finally made a decision and a commitment to say every single Friday, we're going to get together. We actually hired a friend of ours who's a writer who sat down with us. She knows us well. She's a patient in the office. She watched all of my films and videos and stuff. And she literally would take stuff and go through all these essentials that we teach. And then some big, huge things. Like we did a whole chapter on cancer. We did a whole chapter on getting older. So geriatrics, did a whole chapter on pediatrics, did a whole chapter on sugar and diabetes and the food industry. We did a whole chapter on medicines, pharmaceuticals. We did a whole chapter on depression and anxiety, did a whole chapter on teenage health. We did all these chapters. And every time we got into a chapter, we would sit down every single week, every single Friday for hours, sometimes 3-4 hours every single week. My wife, me, and her. And she would tape it, she would type, and then she would bring also what she brought from the week before, and we would go through it. No, that doesn't sound right. I wouldn't say that. This is what I meant when I said this. I know you got this from this video, but we're going to put this here, and so we would rearrange and we would do this. And there would probably be 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, 15, sometimes revisions. And then we would work on the next part. So it was a 2-year process. And it was work. And sometimes we'd sit there and argue. Sometimes Kimberly and I would sit there. I mean, we have the same philosophy, but priorities were different because her priority was number 1, mine was number 3. And I was shooting for this. And it was something it was a hill I was willing to die on. And so it was like, we would fight for the chapter and we would fight for the thing. And there's scriptures in here. And there's like, no, this is the verse that God gave me for this. And so it was a battle. Getting this book out I've never had a baby, but I'm assuming it's like having a baby. And it felt like this one came out sideways. And it literally was painful. It was exhausting. And it was very fulfilling when we get to the end. And I forget how many pages it is, but this book, and we cut a lot down. It's 355 pages of awesome. The issue though is you have to read it. And it is very, very readable because there's literally things throughout. There's like this. There are people in the book who, like this lady, couldn't have children. She comes in, starts getting adjusted, and has kids. So they're all through the book. There's different testimonials and stuff. I love it. Anyway, so it's an easy read. But the problem with it is right now, and the problem with healthcare right now, is I don't have time to look up anything, and I don't have time to read anything. So I'm not saying don't read a book. What I'm saying is write a book, make people read the book, because there's a percentage of people that will go after that. The problem that I see it is the reason that people believe their medical doctor is because they don't want to take the time. They don't have the mental stamina to spend more than 8 seconds looking at something, and they'd rather take someone's word for it that they hold as an authority because the whole community thinks that they're an authority. For instance, who is it? It was in a scientific journal just recently, and they said that the average human on the planet, especially US citizens, has a attention span of 7 seconds. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000, 6, 1,000, 7, 1,000. And now you can't pay attention. Guess how long a goldfish has for this is true story. Guess how long attention span is for a goldfish?
9 seconds.
8. So it's 6 seconds longer than the average human. Why is that? Because we get on a phone and we do this. And we scroll and we scroll and we scroll and we scroll and we scroll. And it basically teaches us that we constantly need a dopamine rush. We constantly need a dopamine rush. That's not by accident. That's on purpose. And it's on purpose because now I'm so like this everywhere that when someone says, oh my God, you've got this diagnosis. I just did a consult with a patient on the way over here who got a cardiac stress test on a treadmill, not because he had an issue, because it was required by the DOT because he's had a heart attack in the past. And they said, it doesn't look good. We need to go do a heart catheter and put a stent in and all this other stuff. I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? Like, you're not like, I don't want to play medical doctor here, but the greatest cardiologists in the world say stents do 0 benefits. Go look that one up. Anybody can look that up. Stents have 0 benefits. Medicated, not medicated. I don't even know do the medicated anymore. I said, just let's do this. Let's get you on some kind of program to go crush the stress test. I said, first of all, you're working out almost every day. I said, but are you on a treadmill like this? Because that's what the treadmill stress test does. He goes, well, I hadn't really thought about that. I said, is it a possibility that could be your general level of conditioning that you put it up like this? It wasn't that you got a weak, degenerative, pathological heart. You're just out of shape. He goes, actually, it's probably true. I'm like, well, then let's just go get in shape and then go back and crush the thing. So the point is this right here is great. Everybody should get this. In fact, if you're a chiropractor, you should get this because they're so filled with 28 years of stats from my brain that there's like chapters to like lead your team on that will freaking go nuts. Like I did a thing on cholesterol drugs, that statin drugs, if you take a statin drug, decreases insulin production by up to 12% and decreases insulin sensitivity by up to 25%, which means if you're taking a statin, cholesterol drug, eventually, what are you almost assured that you're going to be diagnosed with?
Diabetes.
And what do they give every diet? Because they believe the diabetes causes disease. They're going to give them freaking statin drugs. And so it's like, I have people that come in my office trying to get rid of their diabetes because 14 people in their church just got rid of their diabetes, and they come in and they're taking a statin drug. And they're like, well, I can't not take the statin drug. I'm like, well, then you're going to have to always be diabetic. You got to find what's causing things and fix it. So should you write a book? You should write a book. Should you make everybody read it? Yes. In fact, all patients get these. But at the end of the day, what people actually have to have is they have to take this and have to put it in here so that it actually changes their behavior, and it changes what they do when they think they have issues. So it changes how they view and they manage their health.
Here's the thing I like about the book, Doc, is there's a lot of research backing it, and it's really well done. I can just look in the back and find that. And I do a lot of videos online, and I feel like God's calling me to do long form content, which is why I started this podcast. But I know that my audience on certain platforms only can handle 7 seconds. Based upon the insights, they will stick around for upwards of 15 to 20 if the video is really good and engaging. Mm-hmm. But I can take your book and I can find a stat like, holy crap, that drug does that? Does that mean? And I can go and get that. And then the beauty of it is, as a chiropractor, when I go on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or whatever, and I throw this out there, people may want to argue with me. Oh, you're not a medical doctor. Well, first of all, you're right. I'm a doctor of cause and I actually fix problems instead of being an MD that makes disease and makes diagnosis. But if I have that statistic from your book, I got something to stand on. So everybody listening should be doing something. If you're not going to write a book, start making more videos and start using some of the stats from your book to be able to stand on that. And let's start preaching it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I actually just started a social media program in my office, literally in the last 3 weeks, because I wasn't filming any content. I wasn't filming any video, and I never have. I mean, I'm in my 50s. I've never really had to do it, but I had somebody that is just crushing it in practice. And he goes, Doc, he goes, you're amazing. He goes, you have 3 decades of wisdom in you. And I've heard you talk with people when I have photographic memory, and I just spurt out all this stuff. And people are like, people need that. He goes, the problem with it is, he goes, if you're not posting, if you don't have a lot of content, he goes, you don't exist. He said, so you need to get that out there. So as much as I'd say write a book, I've been actually trying to post 3 to 6 videos a day Some are just adjusting. Some are me interacting with patients. Some are like patient educational. And I'm gonna rescind a little bit on my statement on the attention, like the attention span, because the one media form that has actually gained and not retracted during this time of like death scrolling and all the rest is long form video. Even though, he's not a chiropractic proponent, what's his name? Most famous long form,
Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan, which I wish I had a chance to change his mind. He had a bad chiropractic experience and now he thinks all chiropractors are quacks. Again, if Joe's watching, maybe he doesn't anymore because he's open to changing his mind. And I've seen him actually do it, especially with things like Jesus. But literally his format, long format, is more watched in long form than it is short little snippets. And this format is actually gaining traction. Let me tell you why. I think it's gaining format because with the society as it is, we are so fast paced that we're losing relationship. And more people have thousands of friends and very few people they could call in an emergency and never really spend time like this, just me and you just kicking it. And because it's so lacking in their life, having meaningful conversation and meaningful relationship, that when people actually see something that looks meaningful, like a conversation, they actually want to kind of be a part of it. And even though that they're not in the room with Joe Rogan and he's someone he's interviewing, the reason he's engaging is because he's not like this. Let me ask you the next question. It just kind of flows wherever it goes. Right? It's like this conversation we're having right now. We didn't plan to talk about Joe Rogan. We didn't plan to talk about long form video, but it's engaging because it's just like a conversation. It's just going where it should. And so I think that we're touching on a solution to healthcare right now in this, the fact that I think the healthcare is not a system. I think it's a relationship. And the one thing that I know that you have with your patients that I have with mine is that they can call me day or night, even though I have thousands and thousands of people, and they can call me because we have a relationship. And again, I think it's engaging. I think it's different. I think it's what people really want in a plastic, artificial, rushed, non-communicative, non-relationship type of society we live in.
I agree with you. And it's not just you and I saying that. I asked ChatGPT what healthcare professions are going to make it versus which ones are going to be replaced when AI starts to take over more and more. And the very first one, and you already see this happening, it's happening in China. There's literally like almost like vending machines where you go sit down, put your information in, and it spits out a medication or something like that. So this practice of listening to you typing in their little tablet and giving you a drug, it's so replaceable. It's not even funny. But those of us that have hands-on connection, that have some dexterity and relational and compassionate type of component to our care, are the last ones that will ever be replaced. And I would argue that, especially when it comes to an adjustment on your neck, I don't want a freaking robot doing that. So there's people that are wondering what to do with their life. Listen, we need more chiropractors. We need more good chiropractors. Don't go be a medical doctor because you're going to get replaced. Don't do that. Instead, have a career where you can truly serve and love people and make changes in their lives. And because that's what's going to stick around. The relationship factor is what matters when nothing but robots exist.
100%. It's funny that you say that because Kimberly has talked about that with our kids, because our kids are in college. We got one that's still in high school, and she's having the conversation now. 2 of the 3, I think, are going to be chiropractors. One's halfway through chiropractic school now, but chiropractic done right will never be replaced. Now, there's a lot of chiropractic that I think needs to have reformation. Like the doctors that I've hired out of chiropractic school that were in there through COVID is a travesty. It's so sad. Like they don't know how to adjust. They weren't allowed to touch anybody. Many of them were mandated to get the COVID-19 vaccine, some of which have already gotten turbo cancers in their 20s. Like it's so sad to see what's happened to chiropractic. And it's become so symptom-based that 70% of chiropractors don't take x-rays and 90% of chiropractors only chase symptoms. And if it's not getting better, then they should just send it off to a real doctor. When to doctor somebody, in my mind, means to find cause, work to find what is going to help the patient heal and recover the best, and literally help the patient, not just make the patient feel better.
You bring up COVID. I think that COVID was a good litmus test as to how your chiropractic practice can and will survive. Meaning, I'm assuming you're the same as me. I actually grew through COVID. And as we came out of that initial lockdown phase, we were hopping. And there's a girl that lost their practice.
I think that hoodie helped.
I know what you're talking about. And yeah, probably.
I told that story this morning, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was like, hey, a friend of mine got roasted on Jimmy Kimmel because he was doing the right thing. He was trying to save lives and keep people from being in fear. And yet Jimmy Kimmel went up there because he disagreed with his viewpoint, thought he was, misinformation, was just ripping my friend apart because he was ignorant, and he's busted on your hoodie. I'm like, I would never wear anything the rest of my life but a hoodie. Like literally.
I was thinking that if and whenever I speak on another chiropractic stage, I was thinking about the first time I come out, I don't know, on a max living stage, I'm going to wear a hoodie and have a picture of Jimmy Kimmel up on the screen. Yeah. But the joke's on Jimmy, though. We had 62 new patients that month and we did zero marketing. So people just literally called and saw me on Jimmy Kimmel. They wanted to be a part of this practice because we stood up against all the BS that was going on.
So I just want to jump in on that because I told my team this, and I really think it's important for people to hear, whether it's chiropractors or students or people going into chiropractor or even just patients. People are just watching this from long form anywhere. Like, if you really want to be successful in anything in your life, then just don't be lukewarm. Like, be on fire. Like, was it anxiety ridden a little bit? Was it concerning when you had people, like there was people who called and quit. There's people that you had planned to go speak at their church or business who canceled because of that. There's like all kind of stuff that you had to deal with in the front end. But the people that would cancel or not want to be your patients as a result of it actually cleared the way for all the people who go, oh, that's what I want right there. And they see it. And so they talk about there's no such thing as bad press. It's all good press. And it's because it puts you out there and the people that are supposed to be with you find you. I had breakfast with Reinhard Bonnke one time. And I know Eric Shoemake was talking about this at a recent seminar. And he was with me. And we were sitting in this breakfast. And it was before 7 a.m. in the morning. And I don't know if you guys know who Reinhard Bonnke is, if you know, Stephen, who Reinhard Bonnke is. But he's this bigger than life evangelist that would go to Africa. So he literally flew in from Africa to be at a seminar with us at this Maximize Living Chiropractic seminar to speak on our stage, which was very honoring. It was amazing. So I'm having breakfast with him. And then somebody asks him, how many people did you see at this big evangelistic thing that you just did in Africa? And he starts with 138 and he hasn't finished yet. And in my mind, I'm thinking, all right, like that's not that good. And he goes, 138 acres. And I was like, wait, like 138,000? He goes, no, it was more than that. He goes, we can't count that many people. So we just count them by the acre. And we were all like, wow, that's amazing. But he goes, he leaned in and he gave us a piece of advice. And this is kind of what I wanted to talk about here with this is that he goes, if you want to boil water in a pot, he goes, you don't put it on the lukewarm stove. You put it on something that's fire red hot. And it's the same thing for our lives. If we want to be red hot, it's how we get to anywhere. We were red hot in a form that can boil water. And the difference between hot water and boiling water is a degree. So many chiropractors that watch this right now, you may be 1 degree away from all the influences you've ever wanted. You may be 1 degree away from all the new patients you've ever wanted, all the miracles you've ever wanted to be a part of. Like you may be 1 degree away. And so I talk with my team. I just had this as a team huddle yesterday about being at a level of energy and passion, because if we and our team is here, patients will never be up here. But if we're here and it brings them up to here, this may not be enough for them to say, hey, I'm going to get my neighbor involved. I'm going to go talk to my friends and family. But if you're up here and they come here, maybe this is the threshold where they'll actually have a conversation with somebody about what they need to. And so if you're up here, you get a whole lot more movement and influence in people when you're high energy, super sharp, you know your stuff, you're prepared for the day, instead of showing up 5 minutes late to stuff, yawning, tired, just coming to work, and your team's just coming to work. It's just time to go to work. It's just another day. There's no such thing as another day. This is the only one we get.
The energy level is one thing, and I want to come back on that in a second, which I ask a lot of chiros that I have on the show about getting in state, what their morning time looks like, etc. I think that's a missing piece in our profession as a whole. But I also think that there's chiropractors that are not taking the opportunity to have a seminar or to hold workshops or to do a dinner with the doc or do some of these things that you and I do, I can tell you right now, I don't want to put in the preparation for the last seminar we did. I'm not my flesh, I don't want to put in all the extra work and organize this thing and beg. Practically, it feels sometimes like I'm begging some people to get there. But that same person, I was like, come on, you're going to love it. They show up and we rip it for 3 hours. And now they have 7 friends that want to come to the next dinner. They're buying products. They've signed up to the next. I mean, you create the greatest patients based on your energy and your willingness to be at that next degree and be fire hot. And if you have a practice you were walking into and it feels like work all the time, it's probably because you're not red hot.
Being at a lower energy state, unprepared and unready for your day makes anything that you could do a lot of work. It's almost like, I've always said this, like if you have a practice that's a little bit smaller versus a practice that's really big, 3, 5, 7, whatever, 1,000 a week, whatever it is, but a large practice. If you doubled your practice right now, you'd be doing less work. And I want to land that because most people won't understand it. And even patients that might be watching this, when you are a chiropractor and you're running a clinic and it's at a certain volume, there's just like at lower volumes, 70 a week to 150 to 200 a week. There are people that come in, and because the amount of people coming in per week is slow enough and intermittent enough that lots of conversations can be had, lots of symptoms can be discussed. People can trauma dump. We call it trauma dumping because they lay on a table and you're ready to come in and adjust them. They go, hey, before you adjust me, and then like, blah, blah. And they just verbally, feel like they need to tell you 15 minutes of stuff before you get adjusted, which is not what an adjustment's for. Now, if someone needs time with me, I would love to spend time, but that's not adjusting time. What ends up happening is if you're running a clinic that's at a lower volume and your volume is always the picture of how hot you are, this should be clear. And it's hard to take as a chiropractor, and I'm not where I want to be right now either. But if you could double it instantaneously, it would be doubled in the amount of people that would take the work. 90% of the work that you do every day would actually be gone. And the people that would be there would be ones that aren't hard. They actually take your recommendations, they follow them, they get results, they tell all their friends, they write great testimonies, they stay forever because they would never want to leave because they love the mission of the office. They're mission-minded followers who are warriors for a mission. They're not just there to get their glutes massaged and hopefully feel better and then complain when things aren't feeling better, but they haven't changed their diet, they haven't started working out, they're not doing their home rehab, they miss appointments and don't make them up. They're good people. Don't hear me wrong in this. They're good people, but they're high maintenance patients. And the higher volume you go, there's not room for people like that, except for a smaller percentage. And what happens is those people will come in and they will convert to good patients, or they will not be patients in the office. So what you end up having is you have a higher volume office has a propensity, a statistical probability for having more results. And the reason is not because we spend more time with patients, it's because people that come into an environment that is successful, that is focused, that is prepared, that is high energy, they get their crap together. They actually start finally changing their nutrition. They finally start exercising. They do their home rehab. And the reason they do that is because that's just expected. That's what we do here. But if you're in an office that's slow and they come in and everybody wants to spend 30 minutes with the doctor, and people go, I have this sometimes. People go, well, I'm not sure I want to stay here because my chiropractor spent 35 minutes with me every time that he adjusted me. And I went, well, this is probably not the office for you. But I'm going to promise you this, you'll get better results here. They're like, how could you get better results with me and spend less time? I'm like, because what we expect from you as a patient, what we get done and what we achieve together as a team is greater than what somebody would have if they spent 35 minutes with you. And you may not think that's the case, but if that's the case, then you should come to my office and just check things out because it is the case. And you can do that. I would fair to bet that every single higher volume office is the same way. If it's done right, if it's unhealthy, if it's done for the patients and not just money or stats or status or whatever else. And so I truly believe in this high energy state and going in being prepared. You mentioned it, and I think you're going there next, if you don't mind. Like, how do you get yourself ready for the day? Can we start there?
Before we go there, I think there's chiropractors listening to this that has this mental block and they're at 100 a week or 150 a week, and they think that that's the biggest capacity before they start to lose quality of care. Yeah. And to your point, when you explain it to a patient, I have a light in the adjusting area that's got a dimmer switch on it. When you came in, you were here. I raised the dim switch. It's brighter. Now you're here. Do I need to massage the light or do anything else? What else would you like me to do? And what else? If they understand what they're paying for and they're getting the results, because results do not come from more time with them. They come from moving interference at a higher level. And if I'm better at finding interference and getting rid of it quicker, am I not going to help you get better faster than someone that has to take 30 minutes to figure out what's going on? Anyway, I'm just echoing what you're saying is that, but if there's somebody listening that's stuck in a volume and thinks they can't go up because they'll lose results, that's a lie that's stuck in your head.
Yep. Let's do this. I'm going to give everybody a $1 million check that's cashable today. That's a high. That's like calling it out. But this is it. You ready? And this has made me tens of millions of dollars over the years. And it's, don't ever allow yourself to go in a low energy state, even if it's broken, because you can be broken. Like last week, I had two huge things. I had a patient come in with cancer who came in way too late. He took the vaccine, had a turbo cancer. And again, I don't want to get too controversial in your podcast today, but like he came in too late. It was out everywhere. And we really worked hard for 2 months and he passed. And so I was really emotional about it. And another thing that happened with a lady who's been a patient for 22 years, I was not in this go, like high energy, super hope, like positivity. I'm walking around a little bit broken, but I'm going to be transparent. I'm still on the mission. I'm actually more on the mission and more impassioned, if you will, than I was the day before or before this happened. So I got up, I rant before I start patients. And so they got 25, 30 people waiting there. And I was like, hey, let's talk for a second. And then I actually cried in front of everybody. And guess what? 5 people out of the 30 were like, hey, I got a friend that I'm going to get in here on Wednesday next week for Friends and Family Day. And like, oh, I've got somebody I'm bringing to dinner. Oh, I've got a friend. I've told them they have to come today. Like they're coming this afternoon. Like that happened as a result of transparency, brokenness, but also complete consistency and sharpness in my communication about what it is we're doing here. Because here's what's happened to me 28 years into this. I found myself at different points in my career to where sometimes I was really, really on and sometimes I wasn't. And sometimes I was really, really on creating opportunities that only could be God, like getting to go to Africa, being on TV, being asked to be on international TV and all these things. And it's not because I'm really good or a good speaker. It's just, I was so on fire that people just keep asking me. Then I had times where I thought I was on fire and I wasn't. And I had deceived myself. And I was wondering why I wasn't seeing the volume of patients. I wasn't having the same miraculous results. And what ends up happening is, and this is for everybody, how do you break through a growth plateau? And this is it. Change your morning behavior, number 1. Number 2, never allow yourself to be in a lower energy state. That's it. And then the next to that, if I had a number 3, is speak into and love on and educate and sow into your team so that your team is getting the same thing. Because your team shows up. Your team is more of an extension of your clinic than you are. In fact, they're more of an extension of your clinic than your adjustment is. It's who they talk to. It's who they really transparently tell what's going on in their life, all the rest. And so starting out in the morning time, everybody does it different. I literally will go in and journal, Bible time, prayer. I will look at my I start my week off on Sunday and I write all the things I want to get out of my week, not just achieve in my week. So I have all my things on my calendar that says, I got a dentist appointment, I got a haircut, I got these things. But if I just do what's on my calendar, I just got through the week and then stuff's going to fall off. But if I write what I want to get out of my week and I look at that 3 times a day, then if what I want to get out is this many new patients, I want to see this many miracles, I want to learn about this, I want to achieve that, then I got to find out if I'm going to try and get it out of this week, I got to figure out how I'm going to do that. So I keep looking back at it, keep looking at the week. And I don't ever achieve all of it, ever, but I achieve more of it. And so having a life of intentionality rather than it just coming at you and being reactive is one thing.
What I want to get out of my week, not what I want to get done with my week. I got to spend a second defining that a little bit because that speaks to me. So it's got to be speaking to someone else that's listening. We're also going to take a second on the team thing because I got to do better at that. So, but what I want to get out of my week. Is it fair to say, like, it can be some feelings, like maybe it's not something you can actually measure. Like, I want to feel completed. I don't know. Like, can you walk through that a little bit more with me? Like, how do I make that list? Because I'm notorious for, I got my to-do list and I got way more shit than I could possibly ever finish.
Yes.
And
I lived from calendar and to-do lists for years. And I just recently went through this thing called Rise Up Kings. It's out of this Dallas area, North Dallas area. And I learned this and I've been doing it every day. It's changed my life. I did to-do lists. The problem with it is you either do get your to-do list done or you don't. And what ends up happening is you are actually a slave to your to-do list. Like, you just keep looking back and it's like, damn, this is to-do list again. It just keeps whipping me. It's like a slave master. And for me, you're going to have a to-do list because you got stuff you got to do. But I was never getting what I want. Like, what about the things that I want? Like, I'd like to go elk hunting with you. How do I actually make that happen? Well, I can't just plan it ahead. You know why? You know why I've never gone elk hunting with you up until this point? Because I want to do it, but when I get close, within 90 days of a time that I actually could go, do you know what I already have? I already have a to-do list. And my to-do list is so long and it's so aggressive with 7 corporations, 2 clinics, and 15 employees and 3 kids that literally I physically cannot get it in there. And so the only way that I'm going to get what I want out of my life, my week, my month, my year, is to start writing those things down that I want and then make that happen. And you can't give out of an empty cup. You got to get what you want out of it. But what are those things that may not have metrics? One of the things that I have down written, this is a weird thing because in the last 2 months since I started this, I have not been without arm's reach of I have a paper planner. It's in the other room. I was in a hurry to get in here to be on this call with you. Otherwise I have it with me, but I could show you right now on that planner, a list of things that I said, what I want to get out of my week. And then I just write until I'm done writing. One of those things the last 2 weeks is fulfillment in my marriage. And one of the ways that I get fulfillment in my marriage is seeing my wife laugh. Now, you may think that is an esoteric thing, but I'm looking for it because it's in my reticular activating system now. I can count every single time that she laughed last week. I can also look back in the last 3 or 4 weeks. I can tell you the week she didn't laugh once. And so I know she laughed on Monday when I got home from work and we were talking at the kitchen counter with my 16-year-old baby girl. And they were talking about trying this new SCT oil. And my daughter went, and my wife literally almost peed her pants, started laughing. And literally it was funny. And so I was in my mind, I'm looking for it. And I was like, gotcha. That's it. And so the next morning, guess what I did? Check mark, got that one, right? I'm getting what I want out of my life. And if you're just going to work every day and you're not getting stuff out of your life, then you're going to run out. You're going to call it burnout. You're going to call it whatever. And we are busy people who have good capacities, but our capacities can always get better, bigger and better. And one of the ways that those get bigger and better is when we're more organized. We are more clear on what our priorities are. You do the things that only you can do, and you empower other people to do the things that can be done by somebody else. And you keep every 6 months, you reevaluate your priorities. And then as those priorities become clear and clear, you actually just make sure you're doing your things and getting from your week what you're supposed to. I'm talking about a life of intentionality. That right there, that would probably set people's jets on fire enough that they would grow 100 visits a week as a chiropractor just because they would have the capacity to love more, care more, have their hands on more because if they feel like they have the energy to do it.
Oh, dude, it's so good. On this getting in state thing, because it took me a long time to even know what that meant. It's different for everybody, but if you're listening around not getting in state in the morning, one of the things that you could do is just make a gratitude list. Like, it's the easiest place to start. And if you just spent time listening to music, it was really uplifting, and just thanking God for every single thing that you have in your life that you maybe don't deserve or could disappear tomorrow, you will get to a point where you are feeling more grateful. And that gratitude is contagious. And when you get in a state of gratitude and you're truly happy, I don't know how other people define it, but if I do nothing but really block out everything that I want to do right now, which is be the best chiropractor, best leader, best doctor that I can be, and I'm really grateful for my opportunity to walk in the back door, then it may not be my best. I'm on fire for everybody, but that's enough that I can tell that I'm bringing people up when I walk in, and that matters.
Yeah, a friend of mine, Charlie Majors, was talking about healing state. There's actually a book, I think it's called Healing State. Don't quote me on that, but I haven't read it. Charlie talked about it. And I remember him on stage one time and he's like, being in a healing state, if you are vibrating, and I don't want to talk about vibration, it gets into weird Middle Eastern stuff, but literally there is a state that you can be in. And he said you could literally be outside of the room, a hospital room in state, and someone could actually turn around and begin healing better and turning their health issue around by you standing outside being in state. And I don't know about you, but if someone's going to adjust me, I want them fully focused on the adjustment and fully in state. Don't be in a hurry. Don't be thinking about your sick grandma. I want you positive. And I think you hit it on the head, nail on the head. Like, part of that state is being grateful. And when you're in a grateful state, it's a healing presence. And actually my journal, which is right there, like every single morning, I sat in that chair right over there and I journal to God, dear God. And I start writing, and I always start with thank you. And then I just start listing it all out. And it's funny you talking about this. Actually, I was reading Psalm 78 today. Psalm 78. Go read that one. It says, make sure you teach your children the works of the Lord, so they put their hope in him and trust in him. And it says when people didn't remember the works of the Lord, that they fell out. They didn't trust the Lord. They did abominations. They were in sin. And they were in sin because they didn't remember the works of the Lord. And then in Psalm 78, it says, and they limited the Holy One of Israel. Now, I don't know what you get from that, but the Bible literally says that you can limit God's ability to work in your life. And you do that by not remembering what he's already done. So I believe right now for a breakthrough in health, a breakthrough in state, a breakthrough in volume or success for everybody that's listening to this right now, the way to break through to the next level is to actually remember what God has already done. And when you glorify him and you're so grateful, all of a sudden he shows up in ways that make no sense to us. That's awesome. That's a great point.
The other part of what you said is pour into your team. Sometimes there's chiropractors that they are the only team. I've been in that spot when I first started where I was doing everything. Some people got one assistant. Some people arguably have too many assistants. I go to a buddy of mine to get adjusted because he's just really good at adjusting my low back. But to something you pointed out earlier, he's always talking about some stupid stuff that doesn't matter at all to my care. And number two, his team is scattered, not just with organization, but with one of them's got a Mountain Dew they're hiding at the front. And the other one, like there's so much disconnect. We come back and I feel like my team always needs improvement. I'm always trying to help them get to the next level. It's always a reflection of me and where I'm at. But I do come back and go, holy crap, we're doing really good compared to the right? So let's talk for a second about pouring into our team. Like, what are a couple key things that you do for your team, with your team, you ask of your team, those things?
So a couple things. Number one, anything we haven't trained on in 2 weeks, we suck at. And that's actually an analogy that we talk about all the time. Anything we haven't trained on in about 2 weeks, we suck at. So we do the basics all the time. Day 1, day 2, day 3, what we say, how we answer phone calls, things like this. So we're always doing the basics. It's like tying your shoes in basketball camp in the summertime, right? So it's like we got to do the basics. But second to that is, I don't think there's anything such as a successful team when the person's not a personal success. And so I actually sew in my team regularly on, like, I'm coaching them to have great lives, to have good marriages, to have good relationships, to have great health themselves. I do things on vision. I do things on goal setting. I do things on how to maintain relationships. I do things on personal development. I do things for the team that helps them be better people. Because if they're a better person before they even get to the office, then they're going to be a better person in the office as a team. And we've all had that team member that came in that is literally a dumpster fire. And you love them, but there's always something going on. There's like their marriage is on the rocks, or they're divorced a third time. Their kids don't talk to them. They're 50 pounds overweight. They can't pay the bills. Like, they're just a wreck. I got to a point where I will love those people, but they don't get to be part of my team. I want A players, and that's it. And the reason for that is because when you get A players together, if you put a bunch of A players with a C player, it's just going to piss the A players off. And then why is he keeping the C person around, making me work harder and bringing the energy down? But if you got all A players and they're all developing, personally developing, here's what I do know. If a person stops developing self, they're not getting better, they're not increasing their capacity, they're not improving themselves as a person, then what ends up happening is you have a person who will eventually become stagnant in their life. And stagnation generally separates relationship to the point where I start looking at a relationship with, why do they have that and I don't? Or I look at a balance scale. Is this fair? This is not fair. And then as soon as that happens, I start to distance myself. I still talk. We're still friendly. I still enjoy them. We go on trips together. But it starts slow sometimes. And eventually what ends up happening, there becomes an insulation. And then you start to you do this automatically as a human being. You start to affirm your beliefs about the other person, because you have to affirm your beliefs. The human brain does that. So you start going, why do they have this and I don't? Why do they get this and I don't? And then you start going, oh, they're a bad person, they or whatever. And you don't start out meaning that way, but it gets to that point to where you end up, you have to villainize the other person. And so you'll have division in teams, my point. So when I see somebody who's actually stalled in their self-development, it worries me, because one of our sayings, our defining traits of Herb Family Wellness, is that we are hungry, hardworking, and humble. And to be humble and hardworking and humble is to know that you don't know it all and you've got to develop. And so I expect people to be developing. In fact, I expect people to be rising up in my organization through growth and position continually. And if I don't see them having the ability to do that because they're not personally developing, then I can pretty much get a handle on the fact that I probably got about 6 months to a year and start looking for somebody, because self-development is key. And you want people who are A players who want to develop. So again, I don't know if that helps, but
it helps. A players cost more money. I think that's part of the reason why some chiropractors don't hire A players. A players oftentimes will leave a team because they have better opportunities, or they think they do. So I think that's where it matters.
Actually, stop. I'm going to challenge you on that. I had those same belief systems. And
I'm not saying right. I'm just saying that's what other people think.
Yeah. And so let me just agree with that, to the fact that that's exactly what I thought. Well, what I started doing is I started interviewing better, and I started finding younger A players who didn't necessarily know they were A players, right? And I started developing A players so well that if they went to work someplace else, they would literally, it would ruin their life, because nobody's going to develop them as much. They couldn't pay $100,000 a year coach to develop them more than I will. And so people would stay for that. And so, like, case in point, let me give you an example, is I hired a girl. She came in as a patient. She's a single mom, and nice cut, by the way, licensed crack dealer. Anyway, so she comes in, single mom. She is managing, because she has capacity, she's managing 3 restaurants. Got that? She's working basically 7 days a week. And if you ever worked in restaurants, it's high energy, it's high stress, it's high stress. She came in and she fell in love with the philosophy of chiropractic. She goes, this has changed my life. It's changed my son's life, who's like 3. She goes, do you guys have any openings? I would love to work here. And she goes, it's not like me to ask that. I feel a little comfortable. I'm like, well, I don't really have a spot right now, but send me your resume. I didn't really look at it, but I sent it to my team who looks at resumes and does the hiring. And actually it was Kimberly, my wife. And there's 2 people that look at it. I sent it to Kimberly first, and Kimberly looked at it, put it in the trash file. She's like, she's not right for us. Well, she stayed a patient and she's just on fire. Well, she comes back to me about every week to get adjusted and says, hey, any chances? Did you get a chance to look at it? Did you get a chance? Let me check. Till finally, it was like 6 weeks later, we need somebody, and we were in desperate need of somebody. I go, hey, she wants this job and she's hungry. It's part of our principles. She's hungry, definitely hardworking. I don't know about the humble part, but I think we can interview that in. Interviews her. When she interviews her, crushes the interview, which we can talk about another time. Hire her. Best hire I have had in 25 years. She actually, in the course of 6 months, was actually managing the entire clinic, has now taken over finances, and is crushing and blowing past all of our data points and our goals. And it's because we found an A player, and I'm going to develop her, and she'll stay. And here's the thing, when you're developing one of them, it's cool. When you're developing all of them and they're all developing at the same time, they don't just all do this, they all do this. And so you actually have a very, very much more tight-knit team when you're actually developing them. Like I do trainings every single week for them as people. And I do trainings every single week on their scripting, on what they say, on how they do it, on when we do stuff. And so I do both.
To what I was saying, which I agree with what you're saying. Thank you for stopping me to clarify. But big successful companies pay A players what they deserve. And all I was getting at was a lot of chiropractors want to cut that down and not pay much for staff, but you're not thinking about your office as this multi-million-dollar company. You're thinking of it as a little tiny chiropractic clinic. If I'm going to run a multi-million-dollar company, I can't run that with a bunch of C players. And if you have A players who are kicking butt and they're growing as a person and they're being poured into, like you are, two things. Number one, I've never paid an assistant more that actually was worth it. She was because they were an A player and not had the practice grow and make more money from that. Almost always it's a 5 to 10x what you're paying an A player. You're going to make more because of them there. Plus you have less stress. Plus you have less issues to deal with, and you can focus on where you're supposed to focus on. But to your point, if we are actually developing them, I think that they would work at your clinic. Speaking to you specifically, I bet someone would work at your clinic for 20% less than they would work somewhere else for, because they love the philosophy. They're getting poured into, they're getting developed, they're getting chiropractic care, they're healthy, they're getting more out of their life. And not everything is about the money. And so clearly you're making a difference because of the quality of your team right now.
Yeah. And I will say this, I have actually paid non-certified, non-doctors, CAs in my office more than I paid doctors. I mean, but because what happens is as you get better and you develop, then your level of responsibility that you're taking on is more. And if you're responsible for more, that makes money, and you're making money and all boats are rising, then let's go. Like I'd pay somebody $500,000 a year if my office is growing and producing enough to do that. I would totally pay somebody that. That's awesome. In fact, I'm going to go just one more point and we can go to something else. When it comes to doctors that watch this, one of the reasons people hit a stagnation point is because they themselves have personally stopped developing. And you can't lead other people in personal development. You can never actually have them grow if you're not currently growing. Now, you can teach them stuff that you've learned over the years. You can be fizzed up and you can be passionate. But if you're not personally growing, you have to be on your way up to being somebody on the way up. Like you have to literally be personally developing to actually have somebody personally develop that you're actually speaking into. And that's what happens with growth. That's what growth is, I think. I think all growth starts with personal growth.
I just hired a second coach. And when I was at the last seminar where you and I were hanging out, I asked somebody, a chiropractor who is very successful. His practice is seeing around 1,800 a week, and money is just being printed there. The dude is super on mission, super great guy, and he's on fire. That's why it's happening. But his statement to me was, he goes, Chuck, you used to read Success Magazine, so I read Success Magazine. It's another one of those things where the guy that I used to look up to did it, so I'm doing it, right? If it worked, it worked. And he said in that magazine, the guy that wrote the magazine, he says you should be spending 10% of what you make on your own personal growth and development. And he looked at me and I said, I really doubt that if you were to do double coaching, and even, he said, I do triple coaching. I have 3 different coaches because I'm still not spending anywhere close to 10% of what I make on personal development. And until I reach that, I'm not spending enough on growth because every dollar I put in is 10xing what I'm getting out.
That's wisdom right there, my friend. And it gives you the opportunity to stay at a high energy state again, because growth creates high energy state. Stagnation creates fatigue. Stagnation creates, so you got to do that. That's huge.
I want to ask you 2 more questions. Number one is, I think that one of my greatest successes as a chiropractor is outside of the volume and the miracles on the table and my team. For me, it's if my kids become chiropractors because of the love that they saw for me and this passion that I have for this profession and this life, the way that they grew up and this whole experience, they're like, I want that. I want to be part of that and keep that going. That's how it looks like it's going to happen for me. I don't want to mess it up. You're further ahead than I am. You've got one that's in chiropractic school. How do you, other than what I just mentioned, how do you think that happens? And what are your thoughts on kids becoming chiropractors and starting from your shoulders up?
I think it's a natural thing. Like I can't teach them how to be good accountants. I can't teach them how to be good carpenters. I can teach them how to be a good chiropractor. Now I can teach them success principles and have since their birth, and I pray with them. The way that I handle it, to answer your question, how I handle it for me is I never wanted to force them into chiropractic. So I never said, you're going to be a chiropractor. I always left it open and said, I just want my kids to do something that's going to make them happy, like that fulfills God's purpose through their lives, that their lives meant something and they put a dent in the planet that caused reformation, because we're supposed to bring the kingdom of God on earth as it is in heaven. We're reforming. We're reformers. And if that means a chiropractor, then great. And they've heard testimony after testimony after testimony all these years. And it has driven that into them that they get excited about chiropractic. They don't understand a world that doesn't think chiropractically. And so they're naturally bent to be chiropractors. They've all said at one point or another they would be chiropractors. My middle one, who was going to chiropractic, kind of oscillated a little bit. And I'm not going to force it. I'm not going to go, I think you need to do this. You need to do this. If you don't, you're going to regret it. It's a precious thing. It's like a little bitty fire that you're trying to get stirred up. And if it does, great. If not, this fire will light in something else, and that's okay. She'll be successful somewhere else. But it's like when my firstborn, Zach, he pushed away from it because he never wanted to stand in my shadow. And I'm an overly charismatic loudmouth who he definitely would have stood in my shadow unless he would have created his own. And he ran from it for so long and failed in everything that he did that he was like, in the middle of a vacation in the ocean, he said, Dad, I've been running from the Lord. He goes, I'm supposed to be a chiropractor. I'm supposed to go to chiropractic school. He said, I want you to baptize me. And I've baptized him in the ocean, renewed his following Jesus, and then he started chiropractic school. And that was a beautiful moment for me. It was awesome. My youngest one wants to go, and I think that's awesome. But she's 16, so who knows how that's going to go. But the point is, I think what we have to do as parents is we have to find the bents and the gifts that our kids have and accentuate those. And in accentuating those gifts, even for very different children, accentuating those in such a way that if it should go into chiropractic, that they'll be the best chiropractor they would ever have been, because we actually fostered the gifts. Because some are good at instruments, some are good at music, some are good at sports, some are good at cognitive skills. Like I've got one that's the valedictorian of her high school class, and I got one that failed out of college. Like it's like, who's doing awesome now. But the point is, they all have different gifts, and those giftings make you a different chiropractor. Some very cognitive people will be the chiropractors that are research oriented or, different types of communication. My one that was not necessarily the best in school is a communicator's, like she could sell an ice cream popsicle to a lady in white gloves. Like literally, she is just charismatic. She is influential. She is a leader, crazy, even more so than the one that's a valedictorian. But I look at those gifts and I go, okay, how can I foster those gifts and steward those well, that I get I raise them up to be the very best in those gifts I possibly can. And then I just do this. And if they become chiropractors, great. If not, so be it. But I want to be successful in what they're doing. That's what I do.
Well, I'm actually going to end on that one because that was a really good one. So, man, it's been great talking to you. It always is. But thanks for being on the show. And I really believe that people that have listened to this have gotten a lot out of it. I know you're going to be on stage here pretty soon. You got something coming up May 2nd. So I want to throw an opportunity. If anybody has a chance to plug in there, let's do it. If you're listening.
Wellnessmyway.org. It's May 2nd in North Dallas area. We're going to have Sherry Tenpenny, Dale Bigtree, Peter McCullough. We're going to have all kind of people there. I'll be on stage, and it's called Freedom Summit. And it's for faith and legal freedoms in our health.
Cool. Well, I don't know when this show's going to air, but if it airs before that, I'll have a link. If it airs after that, then about an hour and 20 minutes of just gold prior to that plug. So either way, it'll work out fine. Doc, I'll catch you